Hey everyone, welcome back to another discussion. Right off of last week's discussion, we'll actually be talking about some more interesting topics this week, featuring the Game Masters X-Extras Chapter 16 Part 1 banner that just released a few days ago. Joining me today is Nametaker, aka Erbie. Hey.
Hello, I'm here. Hi.
Excellent to have you on board. Haven't seen you in quite a while. And also joining us today for a very special character is Zalgus.
Yes, it's me. It's finally my time.
Yes, everyone misses you, Zalgus. Alright, let us hop right into the content. As usual, let me know if there's anything wrong with the sound. But we'll hop directly into it. So right off the bat, we'll just talk about the Ourobouros mob. I don't think this unit's actually released yet, so maybe it's not exactly kosher to talk about this unit, but it's
not released yet, no.
It's fine, it's fine. We're gonna cancel my channel after this. I was thinking of just putting off until the next discussion. I was like, I'm gonna forget about it if I do it. I don't know, it's not even that important, but this set of mobs, the Ourobouros, is not released yet. It should be releasing eventually as the Chapter 16 Part 1 story continuously releases. It's pretty cool design-wise, and more leaning towards, cool and sharp than, hot and sexy that Housamo tends to do. And it is not really a good kit whatsoever to play with on your side of the board. It seems to be another kit that's more designed to be a hassle to face. Although the challenges it offers isn't actually that particularly different from some of the other mobs we have in our current farms. Its main mechanics is disrupting positioning, either by restricting movement, confusion when hit, or madness on miss, or through dispositioning the enemy by whenever they are hit. So besides that, they do have a bit of minor healing and tanking with increased recovery and some heal effects and some wall statuses and even a removed debuff effect that's just randomly there on miss. But you're not going to use that for any of that, and you're probably not going to be dealing with most of those mechanics as in mobile farm. You'll probably just notice three mechanics when you face them, which is going to be when you hit them, you're pushed. You'll also get confused, so it's pretty much just like the missing mobs. And they also have a reactive form of wall, which means I guess you need to do a tiny bit more damage to them, which won't matter much unless they have an inflated HP pool. So, yeah, that's all I have to say about this set of units. Well, I guess besides they're all the special attributes, so divine units will not be very effective against them. But yeah, anything else you guys would like to add?
I think they're quite cool design-wise, and I think the prospect of being able to give out the wall is neat. I just wish their rates weren't mediocre. I can imagine some uses I would get out of them in some store quests, although I would need to, that would be in one of my nonsense teams where I'm using Garbo units. And I would also need to reroll for those damn rates, because 60% tenacity is not it. I guess it's
that's one of its higher rates. Everything that's got is quite low rate. I think 60 or 70% is the highest it has.
Hey, we can refresh wall now. Woohoo! Refreshable wall.
Everyone's favorite status.
I mean, I do definitely think that having accessible is neat, even if it is only like a 0.75 defense buff.
I mean, it's also on his charge only.
6 turns.
Wait, what is it?
It's allies.
Yeah, it's just allies. I mean, you do you, I guess. It's kind of... he doesn't have any way to build his charge, but sure. If you really need that 0.75 for some reason, then...
These summoners! You have the affiliation.
I'll just use like Daikoku or something.
Just for 0.75 of that.
And then he can give protection, and then he can tenacity himself, and then he'll be really tanky.
Protection, tenacity, wall, and if you're using 5-star, Daikoku defense up as well. Wow.
And Daikoku can heal him to... Oh, wait, no, he doesn't have a heal, does he? It's just...
He does. He does have a heal, yes.
Okay, yeah, so he can get the increased healing. Or wait, is that the?
It's only to the.
That's heal over time, isn't it?
I don't know what that increased recovery is, to be honest.
I always forget if it's heal over time or skill heal.
Skill heal.
Increased recovery. I think that only heals effect healing, probably.
Health increasing skills restore 1.5 times as much HP. Okay, Daikoku is a lock-in. I'll do that at some point, surely.
Surely. Okay, I think... Sorry, what's up?
It's such a useful buff that no one knows what it does.
Yeah, I don't know why they introduced Wall as if it's a special thing. I haven't seen a single good use case for it yet. It's so bizarre.
Jormungandr.
Yeah, he exists, I guess.
I mean, but how are you going to give it to him? Like, which units give this buff? This incredible buff? That would be good with him. They don't exist.
I don't know. And just like give wall strengthening or something. Exactly. They already give prayer strengthening here and there, so wall strengthening makes sense too. Okay, let's.
Yeah, I think they look pretty unique for mobs. So, and we finally got
cool looking.
More non mobs, which is
although they're not. They're surprisingly not really eating themselves. The entire thing.
I think that it's funny that these mobs that are non-range have higher attack than a unit we will talk about later, which is 4-star on the banner.
Yeah, I saw they had a super low HP. I was like, this is actually like almost lowest in the game. Maybe only Lucky Cat beats them, but yeah, we can see it soon. Anyways, I'm sorry everyone for forcing you to listen to us talk about a mob that no one will use for 7 minutes. Let's just move on. We'll just put off reading the chat for the next bunch because this is like a nothing topic. Okay, so we'll be talking about our dear Onyankopon, who is the guildmaster of... he's not a guildmaster, I think. He's a representative.
He is the
he's
a representative of Ajisimba.
Yeah, Ajisimba, that's correct. Take it away, Erbie.
So yeah, Onyankopon is the 4-star low-range unit, which in itself is already sometimes, a lot of times, a red flag, but he actually has a pretty neat niche. He's supposed to be this okay-ish defensive unit. I say okay-ish being very, very generous, but he does have that neat niche, which I will talk about at the end. Not now, because I have to talk about the underwhelming factors first. So, he starts by applying guts to everyone when appearing, which is pretty good, to be honest, from a 4-star. And he can also refresh that guts, but only on the ally below him at a 70% rate. But before I go on with these rates, I will say that most of these rates on this unit will be severely inflated because he does have a skill that bestows to himself glint and concentration every odd turn. So this pretty much skill seed bait guarantees him to have a permanent 20% increased skill rate. So if you skill seed him or have some affiliation shit, who cares? He will always have an additional at least 20% or 30% in this case increased skill rate. So a lot of these can be turn guaranteed pretty easily. So I'll just start off with that. So yeah, he can, with this in mind, guaranteedly refresh guts on the ally below him. Not himself though. His only form of refreshing his own guts is on his CS, which is probably never going to happen, or very rarely going to happen. But it's still there at least. He also provides protection to himself and the ally below him at a 90% rate, and can change enemies' weapons to non-range at a 40% rate, increased to 70% rate with those conditions in mind that I mentioned earlier. This is not a very good percentage, and especially considering the effort you need to go to increase that 10%. So on top of this being only on thrust range, it's pretty lackluster, but it's still there. It can still happen. He also has an on-demand anchor at 80% to everyone on the board. Prevents everyone's position to be compromised, seeing as his ranges are very limited, and applies bind to enemies whenever he's hit at this exactly 80% rate, at the same rate as well. These also can be increased by the glint and concentration he has himself. As I mentioned, his CS refreshes guts on himself and also heals and restores CPs a little, but this is not very important. What is really important and what is the neat nature of him is that he applies CS weapon change all to the ally below him at an 80% rate, which is very easily guaranteeable, especially considering his kit. This is probably one of the. This is our first unit that can do this with no ifs or buts. Like we had stuff like Leecho and shit, but it had a lot of conditionals. But this one is just permanently giving CS weapon change all with no conditionals, nothing. So this is a pretty reliable source of this effect. This has various applications since a lot of units in the game have pretty lackluster ranges on their CS, and some even have their CSs compromising their entire role, such as Christmas Penton, Summer Shiva, and even Kalki, if you're still using him. So he is pretty good at fixing these units, but he can also be used in other interesting ways as well. You can also make a lot of meme teams with him and summer alls so that you can make whatever unit you want into permanent all range. Since his range applies to the ally below him and he doesn't require movement or anything, you can just sandwich that unit between these two units and they'll have permanently all range. The unit sandwiched between them will have permanent all range. Of course, this scenario is very specific and probably not very. I'm liking the word. Probably not very convenient to use. I don't know if convenient is the correct word. It's a very far-fetched scenario, but it can happen. I think he has a lot of potential, and that's pretty much it. Unfortunately, his only form of damage boosting is his bullseye effect.
You're gonna talk about that, okay?
Yes, I'm going to talk about that. It's only going to increase his own damage, so it doesn't really matter at all. But it's there if you really want to.
He's
that he deals
damage.
He'll do a lot of damage. No, he's not going to deal a lot of damage. But he does have concentration and bullseye, which is okay, I guess.
You can use them with Oz to board wipe. Ooh.
Oh. I guess you could, if you really wanted that. But then you'd be missing out on the CS weapon change all.
What do you mean? You can change Oz's weapon change into all.
It's already all!
Ooh, double all.
No. But yeah, he's mostly a unit that you'll primarily use for that CS weapon changed all for pretty niche situations and meme teams potentially. So yeah, I think he's probably one of the better units of this banner, simply because it offers something unique and that can be actually useful that we didn't have before. So yeah, I think he's pretty neat. Also very hot, and those are all my thoughts.
Awesome. Any specific thoughts on this kit, Zalgus, or do you not take a look at it too carefully?
Well, I didn't really need to, honestly, because it's obvious what the cornerstone of it is the CS weapon change all. That's the most interesting part. So one might even say the only most interesting part. Or the only interesting part, but I do think it is pretty cool. Unfortunately, I can't really think of any like actual good examples for where I would want to use that, like a CS that is not already designed for board wiping, but is designed for like massive burst. I guess Amdusias.
I thought of a Hura Mazda, but it wasn't very good.
Oh.
He's not immune to CS weapon change.
Oh, that's particular. There's a lot of examples actually, but I also heard this from Harvey. It's like I don't even know who he's supposed to synergize with. I know it's like not exactly the things that come to mind because people don't really think about people's charges if they're low range as a general rule of thumb. People only really remember the ones who are already natively board wipers. But you know,
Tanka right there.
Well, yeah, that's an example that I think is important to mention because there are really good examples like Wakantanka. As you know, or maybe someone who don't know in this discussion joining us today in chat, before Onyankopon, there was an example of a team setup that was similar to this that relied on using Licho because he bestowed CS weapon change all to allies whenever he moved. So essentially, Onyankopon's just able to do what he did without moving, but only for a single target. The keystone of that setup, though, was a Fashionista walk-on because he gave a massive amount of CP. The only restriction it had was that he had blow range, so not many allies could, or rather, all allies would enjoy one burst of CP, and that was it. But if you give him all range, then all allies will enjoy several bursts of CP, and it was possible to recycle, so long as you're doing that. However, you know, besides Wakantanka, there's also a bunch of other units that you can synergize with, although I do think Wakantanka is an important example. There are other units that can loop their own charge if not the allies around them. There is, for example, both Amaterasu as well as Korpaguru has the ability to massively build their own charge every time they use their charge attack, so just they're potent for charge looping. And Onyankopon certainly makes it a lot easier. Well, not for Amaterasu, since she's already orange. Not Amaterasu, but yeah, okay. Korpaguru for sure, though. There's a few other examples, like the Senri and Jiangxi mobs, as well as Arslan's Halloween variant and Robinson's rare 4-star, or his regular one. And weirdly enough, Maria's Beachside variant. Yeah, there's a lot of quirky examples that have charges on their charge, or rather charge fill on their charge. Just look at the list on Wiki to summarize them all. There's like a large list of it. And you know, Onyankopon, you may say those units are weak, but part of the reason why they're weak is because, you know, their charges are kind of low range and not exceptional. So just like with Oz, Onyankopon makes units that are otherwise considered not very relevant into something that is potentially very relevant as long as you can get their charge up constantly. Onyankopon does have some charge fill, but it's probably not enough, so you may want to pair him up with another charge filler. I only gave examples of people who had charge fill on their charge, but there's like what's it called? There's other examples of people who have good charges and can build their charge natively fast in the first place. There's we'll talk about it later, but Future Hero, who released on this banner as well, is a good example of a unit who could benefit from it because he gets his charge up very quickly. Then there's Leaked, his base form, especially his 5-star. He kind of suffered from just like, you know, he kind of just did amp and charge fill, and he built his own a lot too, but until his recent charge evo, it wasn't particularly effective. But Onyankopon's at least making it more relevant now, since after Leaked's charge evo, he can now inflict possession on enemies too, as well as weakness, so that's nice. Getting hung up over that, there's a few other units that are, or quite a few other units rather, that build their charge quickly on strike or miss. There's Shitogaba, Eita's Ocean variant, Shiva, the River variant, which I forget if I already mentioned that. It's a good example. There's Ahab, Arachne, Astaroth, Bohemio, as you can see in the fudge here. Actually, Bohemio does give a charge fill to allies that are around him too, if not himself. He might not be able to loop it, but at least he'll be able to alternate with someone else. And then there is also Enigma, who has that great bind range.
No.
Mountain Enigma, not base Enigma.
No.
He actually has a good charge. It's just we're not talking about base Enigma here. There's a few other examples. They scream like, what's it called? First gen units, but their charges are actually decent with Onyankopon because they weren't balanced towards having all range. Like Claude and Takamata as well too. There are other units that can get their charge quickly on their own, such as Shuten or Loki or Amdusias, and they all have good charge effects as well, I believe. You already mentioned Amdusias. Loki has all that piercing effect on his charge. Shuten's just strong in general to ring. And Inaba is a pretty good pick in general because he does a bunch of charge fill and he can paralyze the entire board with Onyankopon. And he can get some damage from Tetsuax or Heracles or Jacob, things like that. And these are just the ones that are delayed. There's quite a few examples of units that get their charge instantly, which I'm kind of surprised none of them mentioned them. Yasuyori's Sunshine Range is probably the most obvious pick. There are other units like Tangrishner or Glumpexti, at least Glumpexti's Marine Range, and Heilong each one especially, because he does have a pretty quirky kit on his own going when he copies everyone's buffs around him. But it's kind of restricted based on his snipe range, at least in this way he can now start board wiping too with all the buffs he takes. So, kind of like a makeshift walk-on Tonka dancing range. There's also Snegorshka, for what it's worth. Last note I have on Onyankopon is that Guts Pistol to allies behind is guaranteeable, at least as long as he's missing. So that's pretty strong to have because of that glint and concentration. Guts just constantly giving Guts for him. Of course, he doesn't give it to himself, but there is one other unit that can give Guts to someone guaranteedly ahead, and that's Smoky God's Pool variant. So combining them together, and you're gonna have a fun time of having permanent Guts, at least until someone gets their charge, and then gets magic range or gives Smoky God all range. And I believe Smoky's charge is actually like okayish too.
You can still get permanent Guts with that Fashion Walk On, since he's also going to refresh his own Guts with his CS. So
yes.
with that combo, you get permanent Guts as well.
Does he have a Guts on his charge? I forgot.
Yes, he does to himself.
Oh, interesting.
So he's going to bestow to Wakan and to himself.
Oh, yeah, I see it. That's a good point. Yeah. So if you have a charge looper that can, loop everyone else's charge as well, then it will just be like infinite Guts, at least for Onyankopon and the ally behind him. Maybe not as far as other teammates. So, but yeah, very potent synergy. As you can see, Fashionista Wakan is probably the king example though. So unfortunately, we'll probably be stuck with him in our friends list for a while. But you'll be competing now with Onyankopon, who is definitely an Oz-like unit. Don't sleep on him for sure. It's just a bit harder, less obvious in terms of what sort of teams he'll be good in.
I dump Onyankopon, potential man.
Potential man.
Potential man.
There'll probably be units in future who will be able to seriously abuse Onyankopon's CS weapon change.
Yeah.
As a side note, I think it's funny that first off, why are you using Bohemio in this team?
Because he's cute, and also I know he doesn't discharge full, but I kind of just wanted to use his reverse evasion on the board. Because it's kind of neat, even though it's not really practical after I've tried it out several times before. If you remember, he has this effect where the enemy has their damage reduced by effectively an evasion amount, but except it's debuff form rather than a buff form. And Bohemio can make sure everyone is dealing that much damage.
The CS that is low range and just makes you do no damage.
It also is supposed to push everyone, but yeah.
I also find it funny that you're using current, because I feel like when you use a powerful unit like that, it kind of devalues the whole. But it's fine.
I think the main point of current was just to get her to charge spam, since Fashionista Wakan is gonna get everyone's charges up constantly as long as they're nearby. But just Onyankopon and Fashionista Wakan's charge isn't exactly interesting by itself, and unless I'm moving Onyankopon directly behind Bohemio, then he's not going to get all range either, so Curran's just there to show that she can spam as long as she's beside. Except for this phase, because fucking Tanatoma is the worst cancer in this entire game. But yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Okay. Any other thoughts, Erbie? If not, you can read the chat.
There are no thoughts. Head empty.
Sure.
Did you read any of the comments? Is it from start?
Nah, so you can start directly from the start.
Hi everyone. Heyo everyone. Hola. Trash rates. Hello to everyone. I'm very lucky I have me and Shino. Hey everyone. Hi guys. Hi Joe. Hi Prisma. Onyankopon is the definition of niche unit that really needs the right teammate to work. I hate Tanetomo, Ara says, again. Wild Seal appeared. Go in psycho mode. Hey guys, goodbye. Emojis. Hoover is hotter though. Fact, this Onyankopon is also Anansi.
Yeah, that's a good point. They're doing this weird thing where they're giving them like a pseudonym or some, less common name. Kind of like they did with Oniwaka when he's more commonly known as Benkei. But yeah, Onyankopon normally is in his native religion supposed to be like the creator deity, but then it just so happens that Anansi sometimes shares Onyankopon's name, and even though he's a completely different entity as like a spider trickster. It's a bit peculiar, but
I guess that's why he has the Dr. Octopus arms, because he's a spider.
Yeah, he's a literal spider.
Yes.
It's pretty interesting.
The web.
He also has a lot of webbing imagery in his 4-star, yes.
Yeah, I wouldn't have. I know who Anansi is, but I wouldn't have went, oh yeah, that's Anansi, not with that name.
I actually did not know who Anansi was, but after reading up on him, I was like, this is pretty interesting.
You should watch Static Shock.
Maybe. All right, well, we'll move on to the next topic if that's it. Let me put on my phone. All right, so the next topic of this batch is going to be Hoover. I'll be talking about this unit. Let me just scroll down to notes on him. So, Hoover, what is this man to us? He is the Agent's Guildmaster. But who cares about the agents, right? Except it's kind of surprisingly important what his role is in the story. Supposedly, he is the developer of the app. I don't know if he's like the one developer of the app or if he's just like one of many, but that is what the research file says about him. So he's pretty important when it comes to the whole basis of the story, in some way anyways. I haven't actually finished chapter 15 yet, let alone got to chapter 16, so I'll just leave it at that. But yeah, what this unit actually does, first off the bat, he starts off with some early rate, activation rate up. That glint itself, kind of a class effect of, please use me on phase start, if you take too long, I'll be a bit shittier. Outside of that, he, much like Gun Gotch, is an attack coercer, and he achieves this by his combo bestowal to enemies, not just the enemies he hits, but those that are encircling them too. And this is complemented well with his ability to tank, so that he suffers less from the resultant combined hits from the enemies. This tanking is a combination of both defensive and from evasion, as well as protection before being hit at a kind of less than coin flip rate, though evasion's guaranteed, as well as obstruct weakening, which essentially adds one other mitigation source as long as he's attacking the enemies and inflicting obstruct. And he also has darkness as well to reduce damage even further, but that's only after he's hit, so that's a bit more situational. And he also has evasion and nullify debuff or evasion on his charge, as well as nullify debuff throughout the battle as he refreshes it. I believe he can also refresh it to his allies. That's not guaranteed, but that is a nice way, at least that's more safe than Gotch to take more hits in. At least one extra debuff per turn. Outside of this, because he's an attack courser, what is the purpose of him being an attack courser? Well, he has the ability to punish bundled in, which is to say, when he is hit, a few effects go off. As I mentioned, there's that darkness effect. It does reduce damage thereafter, but it also prevents the enemy from using their charge. And he also has skill lock, which is quite a strong debuff. Only at 60% rate, so it's good that he's rolling for it twice with the double hit. And he also has a bit of flat damage, which can amount up to 4,000 if both hits go off. Outside of this, he is a disruptor and disabler, which is to say he just reduces the efficacy of various, I guess, mechanisms of units, whether it's movement through that board-wide confusion, or rate disruption through that obstruct effect, or skill lock, or the charge disabling from darkness. And as I mentioned, he does have that flat damage on punish. He does have that confusion effect on top of that to add onto it, as well as a bit of extra flat damage on this charge too. Those are all the rules I can list for Hoover, who is actually based off of, I believe, some guy related to the FBI. His story is actually kind of interesting. Feel free to look up his original story based on that. But yeah, John Edgar Hoover is the original inspiration's name, I believe. So, what I would recommend for this unit is to heighten the effect of the punishment in your team. So you can achieve this by bringing more attack coercers. There's not too many game. There's a Goran Gotch, as I mentioned before, who can turn everyone into all range. There's also like board-wide pillars, which I guess technically counts as attack coercers, especially if you're playing them as a slots police variant who can turn everyone into long slash. You may also want to strengthen your team by bringing more punishers or sacrifices, aka units that can inflict debuffs or bestow positive effects to allies whenever they are hit or die, such as Maria or Seth or Kijimuna's canon variant. Outside of that, Hoover is probably, just typically effective for tanking in skirmishes. He's probably not going to be as useful for quite a few quests though, given that a lot of his effectiveness is tied towards that obstruct and skill lock going off, and there just is like a decent category of quests where the enemies straight up resist those skill rate modifying effects. And just like Goran Gotch, despite him having nullify debuff more often, he is still quite vulnerable to debuffs if there are quests that have multiple debuffs going on. He can't block more than one per turn, so it is a risk, especially since he's bestowing combo to the enemy, so they might just like inflict whatever debuff they have thereafter if they aren't getting skill locked. And as a last note, maybe you'd want to steal back combo from the enemy. It is a choice, I guess. But yeah, that's all I have to say about Hoover. What do you guys think?
I think that its stat distribution is very good, but the attack stat made me laugh when I first noticed it. Because I think that's like the lowest attack stat for a 4-star, which makes sense. He's not supposed to attack, but it's still very funny.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. I looked at it and I did a double take. Can it go that low? It's crazy. I think his 3-star was actually like even more ridiculous though. Like less than 1,000, it's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very weak, but he must be shooting like foam bullets.
Yes. But yeah, other than that, I think it does a lot of things, but I can't see myself using this unit. I think the combo is neat though. It's a lot better than Goran Gotch. But
Yeah.
everything else is a little sus.
That's the only part I can really see having some use, because like, who really takes obstruct who really takes obstruct seriously? And it's cool that it's a debuff that halves enemy damage. I don't know why it's limited to 10 times.
We can use him with Bushi. Whoa.
No. I don't think obstruct's that bad of a debuff now that they're easing up on what's it called? The amount of resistances quests give. I just think as long as skirmish quests aren't as relevant, obstruct's probably not gonna be relevant too, because you just wipe everyone instantly. Obstruct could be more useful for quests that take a while and the enemy has multiple opportunities to reroll. As it stands now though, it's not really a relevant thing because they don't really make good skirmish quests that can't just be board wiped. But yeah, it's a kind of a running theme among a lot of the agents, isn't it? Like even Oze has like obstruct on the entire board or something like that on base art and train. They have their disruption of the mission, if you will, by sabotaging it.
But No, at least for the half obstruction thing, if I wanted a debuff that would halve enemy damage, I could use like anyone who would like be more generally useful, like Shiro is the go-to suggestion. I don't know, I just don't feel like Hoover's that useful. Like, again, the combo is the only neat part, and the rest is like, it's fine, but I can't see myself ever using it. I didn't look at his free stock yet, actually, though.
What?
No, just me talking about free stock kits for my own degeneracy.
Well,
he does still apply the combo at 100% rate, even.
Yeah, better than Gurngotch. He's I think he's just like Gurngotch with done differently. He doesn't have the all range thing, which is probably Gurngotch's most important thing. But otherwise, he kind of functions identically to him, just like in more local range. So if you like want more controlled punishing and like having the enemy hit you intentionally to get some nasty effects going off, Hoover is an okay choice for that.
I think it's at least very thematic to him. At least especially with all these debuffs. They all make sense in a way.
Yeah, it definitely does. It's at least well designed lore-wise. I will say though, I know some people like Hoover's design, and I think I'm neutral towards it. But I feel like someone out there is probably seeing this as a roast or revenge roast on the real Hoover, based on what he did in real life. Oh yeah,
it kind of was, because in real life there were allegations that he had boyfriends.
Yeah, that's actually a clever interpretation of his thing here, when he's like interpreted as, he has official and confidential secrets that he doesn't want anyone to find, and something about relationships. But I mean, just the idea that they depicted him as like some guy who's sitting on a toilet and is like morbidly obese is kind of funny. I don't know. It's not that I'm a fan of physical comedy when it comes to making fun of fat people, but the real life comparison is just so drastic that I can't help but see it. Alright, no one else has anything to say about Hoover then? Okay.
No.
I see how it is, no one cares. Gotcha.
Why does Inari dislike it? Is it because he eats all the food?
I read his kit several times, or rather his research file. I had no idea. Like, maybe it wasn't Inari's kit, but I didn't think.
Spoilers! We can't talk about it.
I see.
But it does have a reason.
I'll just have to wait here to understand, I suppose. Okay, so let me read the chat. Error, data classified. Goober, my beloved guy founder. The app you developed was supposed to be a dating app, but of course Housamo started as a dating app, of course. Hoover's stopping all over me, paparazzi. Also, hello late to Onyankopon, but I love his swimsuit out. Yobok men are always big. Yeah, it's a pretty good design, honestly. Hoover, perfect. Everyone else is in denial. I see. Hey, Lynn, welcome back, and thank you for the super. You want Hoover to sit on Tadatomo while Bigfoot watches. I definitely said that on stream. Alright, let's, or rather, SpongeBob, not super. Let's move on to the next topic, if we must. So, enough of the delay of the actual topics everyone cares about. We'll finally be talking about the Divine set of units, aka the Megabait that has doubled our roster of Divine topics. We will be starting off with Shino Yatsufutsa. Everyone, give him a round of applause. He's finally returned from the dead. Take it away, Zalgus.
Unfortunately, I don't have the soundboard open. First of all, I'm thinking about it, I'm surprised they didn't separate Shino and MC into different banners for maximum bait.
Zalgus, don't give him ideas on stream, stop.
So, after 1 million years, we finally have the second variant for Shino. Another 5-star, and he's divine even, featuring his many sons, also his wife. You can't see her there, but her voice is there. So, what does he do? First of all, he has a variety of when appearing abilities. Movement expands to self, unfortunately, only one turn. Vigor to allies, and not self, annoyingly, globally. Prayer guts to allies, also not to self. Well, the guts will be to self, but that's in a different skill. In 2 square diamond radius and blessing strengthening globally. This blessing strengthening is identical to Christmas Seat Tree's buff. For 10 turns, it provides a 10% skill activation rate while under the effect of blessing. This is of debatable usefulness depending on who you pair with him, but Shino does essentially provide a 20% skill rate up without having to use glint or concentration, so that is something. Unfortunately, his own personal blessing rate or a range it's all around, which is fine, but if you really wanted absolute guaranteed uptime, it would be nice if it were larger. But he has big movement expansion anyway, so it should be fine enough to get blessing onto people. Unfortunately, you can't guarantee it because it's 80%, and he doesn't give himself any skill rate ups, which I find really annoying, actually. He with the way his rates are set up, he would actually like a smidgen of skill rate up that he gives to others to give to himself. Oh well. So, on turn start, Shino will give himself Guts for the first 8 turns, which basically ensures that he can't die, besides in cases where enemies have removed buff or Guts resistance, which is pretty rare. So this makes Shino pretty survivable. And every 2 turns, he will grant himself 60 CP. This CP greatly encourages Shino's primary playstyle. With 60 CP every 2 turns, it's pretty trivial to get Shino to 100 CP every 2 turns. This is helped by when attacking, he gains 8 CP, and with Frost range, this means he'll gain 16 CP per enemy hit. So hitting 2 enemies will pretty much all but guarantee Shino's CS between the variable CP gain, Shino getting hit, and also the arousal that he can grant himself on buff, which is annoyingly also not guaranteeable. It's only 70% rate.
It's weird how after buff arousal is so common in this game. Like, I don't understand.
Yeah. I don't know. People get the buffs and they get really excited or something.
It's just like after buff CP, except it's worse.
So much worse. Jeez.
Yeah. Yes, ask Masashi about that. He doesn't have arousal. Anyway, also when Shino's CP is at 100% move phase end, he removes all debuffs from allies around himself at an 8% rate. First of all, it's annoying that they put it at 80% again because it's not guaranteeable. And also, we have similar remove debuff effects that would work like this, which again, as we talked about this last stream actually, it's Pazuzu and main story Nyal. They apply a skill that removes debuffs when they get applied at also at an 8% rate. So I don't know why they keep doing that, but at least Shino can up it up to 90% with seeds, and even more after that. And then there's Jamboree Aizen, who removes free debuffs from surrounding allies. So we do have other choices, but Shino is pretty consistent. Again, he annoying. Well, no, never mind. I was about to say he doesn't do it to himself, but that would be terrible if he did it to himself. But I'll get on to that. So yeah, Shino's pretty good for just consistently cleansing all debuffs off of allies, like just with no restrictions. You'll pretty much do it every 2 turns, assuming you're playing him as he should. And you could easily bump that up to 100% with a single a glint, a prayer, a concentration, whatever. So earlier I mentioned Shino's blessing. It's just on move to surrounding allies, and also when he moves, he gains countdown to self and gives himself countdown strengthening. Countdown strengthening is a 1-turn buff that gives a 6 times damage multiplier. Now on its own, it wouldn't be that great in comparison to other on-move buffers. The go-to for on-move buffing, well, I find still for single target, is still Lianan, who gives a 11.52. But of course, you can just stack it by alternating. So yeah, the countdown strengthening is a nice extra multiplier to throw on top of any other buffs that Shino's getting, and Shino really only needs to move on the second turn whenever he gets his CS, because that's when you actually want to do the damage. Most of the time you won't care about his off turns. Now then, enough
He needs to
pre-roll.
get his charge by hitting people in thrust range, Zalgus. It's very important.
Yeah, but you don't really. I mean, the damage when he attacks is not that bad. Let me scroll down. It's with countdown, he will be hitting for about 19k. So it's not that bad, and that's including the divine advantage. So yeah, not that bad, and you could definitely get up to respectable levels with other things. But realistically, you're probably only going to be moving Shino every other turn. So you can alternate him with anyone who provides a 2 or more turn buff. Now, yeah, onto the real meat of his kit, I suppose. Shino CS. It is a all-range CS which grants Guts to self and Crit Plus to self and inflicts countdown to enemies and deals double damage to countdown. And also death, but that doesn't exist. This CS will deal 68.9 damage, 68.9k damage with his. This is when he has countdown and including the divine attribute contributing, because it's effective against like everything. Don't look at those special element like the ones Ourobouros has, because that's totally not annoying in some of the farm quests. So yeah, 69k damage compared to other all-range CSs. It's pretty good. I'd say it's on the upper end of the pack. There's pretty much only one person who can reliably get ahead of him, which is well, I'll get into that. So for the go-to all-range CS spammers, when I think of it, I would immediately think of Oscar, who does 28.5k damage. This is just with his own Ardor. And then there's Tindalos, who, when he inflicts Stigma, which he has a wide range, is 36.3k, although note that Tindalos only does it every 3 turns. And then the big one is his own son, Masashi, who does 108.8k damage, and can increase that to 261k with a weakness he can inflict. So, Shino's pretty up there. Masashi is higher, but there are a few. You basically have to pocket Masashi with a lot of buffs. I mean, you can do that with Shino too, so it's kind of whatever. So in terms of pure damage, Masashi, obviously trumps him, but Shino is. It's really easy to just leave Shino there and have him CS repeatedly, just because he's gaining a bunch of CP.
Yeah, less synergy dependence compared to Masashi.
Yeah. There is a slight problem in that you have to move Shino on his move turns to actually get the big damage, because if you don't move him, then you can just reduce his 69k by divided by 6, which is, a massive drop-off. So you do have to make concessions as to who you compare Shino with. So I'd summarize him as a unit who provides, kind of unimportant buffs to allies. Blessing Strengthening is the unique one, air quotes, but it's a recycle stat, so it's whatever. But 20% skill rate up to allies is still nice. Well, again, depending on who you're playing him with. For some reason, it annoys me that his buffs that he gives to allies are completely separated to the buffs he gives to himself, because he has those weird rates that are low for some reason, and he could have them guaranteed if he prayed or blessed himself, but I guess that's just not for him. Which, I mean, I guess that might be
more too
relevant.
busted, Zalgus.
Of course it would be. I mean, it would be lore relevant because Shino probably doesn't see himself like that. But anyway, so Shino is very survivable due to his constant gut spam, and he will reliably get his CS every 2 turns, either on his own, assuming he can hit 2 units, or with minor assistance. You don't really need to give him that much CP at all to get him to CS, assuming he's hitting nothing. After his first CS, his arousal will cover 20 CP for the next CS, so you really only need to get an extra 20 CP from somewhere, which is basically just hitting one enemy with Shino, or a single probably buff from one other person, like any standard CP battery units. And his CS does pretty respectable damage for it, as far as all range units go. Well, I say respectable, it's quite high. It's couldn't really think of that many other units besides the 4 I mentioned, and Shino comes second. Obviously, there's a big power gap between Masashi and Shino, but that's just because Masashi is a ridiculous unit. But Shino is still like way above like Tindalos. So how would I rate him? First of all, as a divine unit, well, not so much with the next unit, but compared to Kyoma and Curran, Shino is like nowhere near their power, unfortunately, because Curran, disables the entire board for like 8 turns or something, completely ridiculous. And then other such disruption, and Kyoma is a absurd buffer who has the utility of pulling everyone to him and that sort of thing. And Shino is just there for damage and survivability, really, which, he does well in his own right with that, but, nothing compared to the other 2 divine units. He's more on par with the next unit we'll talk about, but that's compared to the other divine units, and again, those 2 are broken. But as far as compared to other units, as a CS spammer, he's pretty good at doing it consistently without assistance and can do good damage, and that's pretty much all he needs. And yeah, he's very survivable, which can be helpful sometimes, but if you're already CSing, probably you want to kill them first. Although there are some helpful parts with Countdown, the obvious being Limit, which is unfortunately not in his own kit, but I'll get on to that in a moment. As far as ARs go, his options are kind of limited because of his divine element, but he actually has some pretty good picks even without that, because of his thrust. Thrust gives him access to evasion and defense piercing ARs, and those are always useful. Well, always useful when they're relevant. If you wanted to get his CS more easily without necessarily hitting 2 enemies, you can equip various CP-based ARs like the Shino Mori AR that grants 15 CP face start, or the Chernobog Zao AR that grants the Hot Springs buff, which grants 20 CP at the end of turns for 5 turns, which is basically 3 guaranteed CSs on turns 2, 3, 2, 4, and 6. As someone whose power is all in his CS, he can of course just equip him with ARs that increase his CS multipliers, and in fact the 2 5-star ARs are quite good. The Shiva Balor AR will also grant him an extra attack buff on top, which is based on his his CP, so that'll grant him an extra 2 times multiplier in addition to the +2. The Out Toji AR, which will start Shino and everyone else with 30 extra CP, so that'll help him cycle his first CS in without any conditions. And then for the +1 multipliers, it's just Gunzo Kyuma, Ikuto Shikago Tsuchi, who cares. And since Shino has very high uptime on his guts, he can make use of the 2 gut strengthening ARs, which are the same status. That just gives a 1.5 times multiplier. It's small, but it's consistent. And finally, there's this niche AR that I never see get used. It's the Christmas Pollux Bathin 5-star AR. At base, it gives a 80% chance rate to give crit plus while below 50% HP. So Shino will basically always.
It's popular.
Shino will basically. Well, yeah, he's pretty much the only one who I can think of would use it, because he's the only one other than Shino who can reliably get himself low HP. But yeah, Shino's basically always on the cusp of death because of his countdown to self and basically no healing. So this makes his regular hits hit for decent damage. It's an extra 2.5 times multiplier. And with countdown, he normally hits for 19k, so that becomes a 47k attack. And that's just before being hit, so you could easily amp it with something else. And that's it for the ARs. Now, as for who you'd want to pair for him, it will be mainly units who can give out buffs without having to move, or those whose buff lasts long enough that you can spare a turn to move Shino. So any 2-turn buffs or longer. Being able to give limit is also a massive boon, because Shino will always be able to take advantage of that 4 times damage multiplier. Assume that in the following suggestions that he's at 1 HP. So Yig can be a good choice, because it gives Shino on-move limit and poisoning strengthening, and that'll total up to a nice 12 times. But the limit will unfortunately run out after turn 3, so there could be better choices. Except not really, except one. So I didn't realize this until I looked it up. Unfortunately, limit that is not on move is actually quite limited. Lol. Shino's best partner in this regard is probably Yoritomo, who can give Vigor, Limit, and Concentration for a total of 21.12k multiplied, and that's all without moving. He can also grant Shino increased movement, which is nice for when he does have to move, and it lasts for 3 turns, so that's nice. Other bestowers of limited are unfortunate. Other bestowers of limit are usually restricted to on move or on hit with short range, like Manticore. There is also Yuma, who does it turn starts to allies far left, far right, but that's all he gives because Shino has no access to tenacity.
I'm pretty sure Hombre Tigre gives it too, doesn't he?
He does, but I was thinking about mentioning him. Hombre Tigre gives limit and move phase end in a 2 square diamond radius to allies at a 30% rate. This is amped up to 60% rate when he has Haunt. So it's not reliable, unfortunately. I would love to pair those two together, don't get me wrong. But unfortunately, like, if you could get Hombre Tigre to 1 HP, because that's what you want him to do, if you could get him to like 1 HP immediately, that would actually be really great as well, because that would also make him give a 3 times damage multiplier to Shino.
And there's also Ikutoshi, Strong variant. He was not a popular pick because he gave a skill that let people self-bestow it, only at below a certain amount of HP, but you know, Shino, so
right.
It's pretty much guaranteed on him.
It's lost for 5 turns faced. Oh, yeah, I guess that would be an option. Well, oh yeah, he gives concentration as well, so you could alternate them. Well, I didn't actually see him on the list because he gives a skill that grants limits.
Always be sure to check the skill effects too, the skill statuses rather.
So, Ikutoshi could also be a choice, I guess, but Yoritomo is definitely like the pick. Yoritomo 5, mind you. Jamboree Shiro would be a good choice if his limit wasn't restricted to having Jamboree Shiro below 50% HP. He would be able to give movement expansion, apply weakness, give limit to or vigor and limit to Shino. But unfortunately, he has to die himself, or start dying himself first. Which, I mean, I guess Shino gives him guts, so you could cause that to happen, but it's just kind of pain. Yeah, so that's pretty much the choices that I would have picked. Just get Yoritomo 5. You can buy him in the store. But yeah, in my opinion, he's definitely the one to go for. After that, you can still continue buffing him with other people. On move. You don't necessarily have to. Just restrict yourself to 1 support. But I didn't bother going much farther into that. You're already getting a 6 times and a 21.12 times multiplier onto Shino CS, which will do a lot of damage. So you'll probably destroy everything. So, I don't think Shino is the most, interesting of units, necessarily, especially not for a divine unit, but he's definitely pretty powerful in his own right, so, it's fine. Also, I see someone says the Summoner's AR that gives limit. He would not actually like that, because that only lasts 1 turn, and that means he will never have his CS with it unless it's one of the subsequent phases.
Which is unlikely since he's board wiping on the previous phase, and then the next one will happen.
So, yeah. Unfortunately, as a result of Shino's element, he can't actually equip many of the powerful booster AR, like the one that'll give him brawn or whatever. He can equip the... I guess I could do that for him. He can, however, natively equip the concentration to allies AR, so you could have him, in fact, give 30% to allies. So that could be nice. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Powerful, consistent board wiper.
Yeah, it's kind of easy to see him as maybe the worst of the divine units, but he does a lot, but it's just kind of all over the place that it's kind of hard to describe them neatly for, he's really good at this one thing. It requires some observational skills to see how he's subtly actually quite good. I mean, for one, straight up the bat, he's like the strongest board wiper in the game, well, besides Masashi, I guess, but that doesn't count because he has restricted weakness range. And also, Divine is just more likely to have advantage over all enemies compared to World type. Other than that, though,
it's funny. I find it funny that you say that because of the fucking grind quests.
Yeah, I know. It's funny that they're like all counter Divine, which is like, you know, it's fair enough because Divine is kind of stupid every else. But yeah, it's what was I saying? It's the subtlety in seeing what's good about his kit is there seems to be like a lot missing, which you think is bad, but he still does a lot on his own. So it's like another way to see it is that he's kind of really good, even just solo carrying as a board wiper, which is uniquely on its own because board wipers typically can't solo carry. They usually just need a bunch of support, so that's unique that Shino can do that. In addition, though, just like other board wipers, he certainly benefits from other buffers. I know you already said that directly, but I want people to notice specifically that he gives himself no common amps at all. The only amp he has is on his charge, which is Crit Plus, which is also not particularly common to get. So he is like, you know, oh, it sucks that he doesn't give Vigor to himself, but I guess that's partly suggestive of the fact that it implies he's designed, despite being already strong on his own, to like solo carry, to work with other units and receive pretty much any buff they can give, to be even more ridiculously strong. Yeah, because he does seem to have like a lot of these auxiliary effects, which is just, you know, it doesn't seem to sit nice with him just being a board wiper. But in essence, he can do like strong board wiping if you just look at the numbers, and all those auxiliary effects just make him all the more potent in a proper team that is built around him. They're quite fitting for the forebear of the 8 Dog Warriors, I think, to be both like important on their own as well as having like, you know, dependence on teammates as an integral part of their design too.
I think his blessing strengthening should have been better. It's the entire thing of the you know, the 8 Dog Warriors all have it.
Yeah, but he's not a dog warrior, technically. He's just a dog.
And then the recycled fucking sea trees, fuck-ass cat, as Harvey would say. Yeah, I don't know.
It was just so good the first time, they needed to do it again. You know, again, just like how the other buffs don't really overlap that easily, the rate of effects also don't overlap that easily. Prayer is extremely uncommon to bestow to allies, and, you know, Blessing Strengthening is just on Citri, so you may even stack on rate up effects if you wish to. It's a free game for Shino.
Also, I didn't actually realize this the first time I read through his kit, but yeah, his movement expansion is +2 in all range, so...
Did you not notice?
No, I was like, I just gave it a glance, I was like, oh, just movement expansion. So now it's 2 tiles, so it makes him very mobile on turn 1.
Yeah, the significance of that is that even if he spawns in the very opposite end of the map from everyone else, he can still move directly beside everyone else, which, you know, again, encourages him to have a strongly synergistic team, even one that works completely locally rather than globally, given he has that advantage to just move directly beside him immediately.
Heals himself on turn 1.
Yeah.
I'd say that's about it. Oh, wait, very cute art. Look at him. I think this is the first time we've seen his other eye.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Very important to mention.
I was wondering if you're gonna mention eventually, but yeah, Erbie, where you been? Gonna mention anything about this unit?
I think most of everything was already been covered. I do like that it's kind of like a combination of regular Shino and Valentine Shino in a way, kind of retained a couple of those units' identities with the countdown and the guts refresh, which was what people use Valentine Shino for, even though it's no longer usable, and it's pretty bad these days.
Yeah.
At the same time, I think I think just the fact that he has guaranteed guts every turn for 8 turns is already pretty good, and on its own. So I think he's a pretty okay unit, just not on the tier of the others that we got, as Zalgus has already said before.
Where's my power creep?
There was no power creep.
I mean,
It was all not real, apparently.
okay, I think we're just cutting him, some unfair slack here. He's like extremely strong, to be honest. It's just, I don't know, we're sweltering with a lot of extremely strong units lately, so he doesn't seem as good as a result.
Yeah.
He's solo carrying by board wiping and also having that mobility and, just not being able to die for 8 turns in a row. I didn't mention this, but he, if endurance farms does become relevant, Shino's just like an instant win, as long as the quest is like under 9 turns.
I doubt they're going to make a quest for more than 8 turns, at least survival quests.
Well,
If they do one that actually applies guts resistance, because I was cheesing the previous ones by just hiding someone with guts in the
yeah,
background.
I'm pretty sure we had challenges that removed buff, so I don't know. I don't know how he's going to handle that, but I'm pretty sure they're not going to do that. Like, what's the point?
yeah, well, for the ones that don't have remove buff, Shino will just be like plug in and play and get your free currency at the end. I'll probably just be using QM anyways for the EXP bonus, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, I guess the last comment on him is he could be good for every turn board wiping too, if you just bring, board wipers for turns 1 and 3, etc. There are a lot of units that are designed for those, like Loso or 10 billion instant board wipers, etc. And
Arrow bringing back the clog.
yeah, they're not the most relevant strategies, but admittedly, charges on turn 2 are pretty uncommon, so Shino kind of successfully fills that gap pretty well. And what's it called? Also, despite what I said about him being really strong in like team setups, unfortunately, because of his design, there's one class of units that you don't want to be ringed with him, which is debuff mitigators, because then you're just gonna eat up his damage by denying his own countdown. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, I was saying earlier, it's a good thing his that remove debuff doesn't actually apply to himself, because that would go after he moves, which means countdown would.
Yeah, that would just be stupid and
immediately get
pointless.
purged.
They wouldn't do that. Jeez.
That would actually make him useless, because then his CS would be so weak.
No damage.
Yeah. Also, I know it seems weird that it's only 1 buff or 1 turn long for the countdown advantage, but it's important because what's it called? That's also his only buff source for arousal too. Surprisingly, he doesn't really give himself any other buffs besides countdown strength. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, I mentioned that. He'll no bust himself.
It's very funny.
But also,
Very selfless stat or something.
they should have given him what Kyoma has with his contract infinite buff, where it's just a skill that says, I will count down myself every turn.
I mean, he might as well at this point. There's not really a reason for him to have to move for countdown. Sure, give him what's called an incentive to get stronger from it, but they could have easily just let him have countdown forever.
Yeah. It's just an excuse to make him into a moved unit.
I guess you could. Oh yeah, he gets heavily countered. Also, I didn't mention this by, of course, darkness and CS law. So consider mitigating that when relevant.
Is that even possible?
Also,
like I said, don't bring debuff mitigation with Shino for the most because of countdown being a core to his strengths. You probably just don't want to bring Shino if they do have debuffs as a real risk that could target him.
Well, you could bring debuff cleansers who do it like
Turn start, I guess, like Aizen or something.
like that. Something that would do it like out of move phase or on hit phase.
Yeah, anything turn start would be good, like Aizen. I don't think Neural would be good because he just like instantly remove countdown the moment he gets it.
Also, if you for some reason don't want Shino to start losing HP, I guess you could bring HP reversal. I don't see why you would do that.
You could. I think I actually did it in my other example just for fun. Kushi is actually a pretty good pair with what's called Shino, just because he has that countdown strengthening, and this is like the easiest form of inflicting countdown on the entire board, even if it is just the charged version, which is, slightly weaker. And also Kushi just happens to give limit on phase start too, so that's a nice thing. Even if Shino's not particularly likely to get his charge on phase start, it is a nice option to have to strengthen at least his thrust damage, since at least for this unit, limit will always be the equivalent of crit.
It really is annoying that limit application is so limited. I couldn't even believe it when I was looking through the list. I was like, surely we have more than Yoritomo as a.
You have the Kotoshi variant.
True,
Except he needs to move. Except he needs to move as well.
Yes, and if I wanted to move, I would move for more than just concentration.
You're getting Glint too. Ooh, guaranteed arousal.
Wow.
I mean, it's a pretty good synergy, honestly. It's not like amazing synergy, but at least it's a lot better than what a lot of other units have with Shino. Okay, in any case...
Oh no, he applies nullified debuff.
Oh, does he?
Oh, he does. Oh yeah, CS applies nullified debuff. I think.
Just don't let him put him in the corner or something. I don't know.
he has no CP gen anyway, so
yeah, it's fine.
Shino can only arousal him, so it's fine.
Okay, so what do you guys actually think about the art? I mean, I know you kind of said it was cool jokingly, but any specifics on it?
I think it looks nice.
Shino's cute.
It reminds me a lot of the fan art they usually, not the fan art, but because it's made by the actual artist, but still, the art that they sell on those cons anyway. With all the Akenshi that they usually sell their merch on. It's pretty neat.
Yeah, this banner is pretty exceptional for the Divines, at least when it comes to the way they're designed art-wise. Is just they, removed maybe like 90% from hot and put 10,000% on just cool and hype. This is one of the most exciting, full of references, full of meaningful connections art there is out there in the game. Only seconded, in my opinion, by the featured hero, but that's a matter of opinion at that point. I really do like Shino's art here, definitely more than his base art or his base 5-star. Or even his Valentine's, which is front-facing Shino. This one's very animated, and especially his outfit expression is kind of a dirty look to it that I like.
I will say the only bad thing about his art is that fucking Shino is wearing the same outfit, which is silly. I hate these kinds of variants with. Oh
yeah, what's called Tadatomo is also still wearing Shino's outfit. It's like, what?
Oh yeah, he's still wearing.
Take that off, you fake.
Yeah. I really wish they'd stop making main quest variants that are just them in the same outfit, but yeah, they do have background elements and other stuff to compensate, but still, I want more outfits, please.
Yeah, it would be nice, but
marriage clothing that he wore with Husahime. I'm surprised they didn't even bother drawing Husahime in this art. Just give her a voice. The fuck?
Give her a voice, but no art. Not even a ghost.
I'm pretty sure her art's somewhere in this game, right? Her art's drawn somewhere.
It's in Masashi's
Yeah,
art.
what the fuck?
But not here. She's not here.
Yeah, also, what's it called? The voice actor, there's only two, right? So it's Shino and Husahime, but also... is the voice actor of Masashi also Husahime's?
Yes.
That's kind of cursed.
So this is also is unique in a unit that has 4 different people speaking.
4 different people? Shino, Husahime, Masashi, and who?
Mori.
Mori's an... Oh, right.
Mori is voiced by Yamaguchi, who also voices Shino.
Interesting. I didn't really notice Mori speaking, but I guess I wasn't looking that carefully because Mori wasn't really mentioned anywhere in the research profile anyways.
He's the one who sounds like a nerd.
Thought that was Shino.
Yes.
Okay, fair enough. In the very least, it's definitely a cooler that they combine voice acting compared to the other one, which is mutually exclusive, which we'll talk about soon right now. But yeah, we all love the art, and we can all go lazy art coming up after. But go ahead and read the chat first, Zalgus.
Smile. Shino can't die for 8 turns. That's right. And probably more, because you'll be CSing constantly and giving him guts. Me and my brother hugging Shino as one big family. Happy family. Smile. Shino came back with milk. Maybe in his alt art, where his jacket is torn off. Hello. Or, no, he would definitely enjoy the summons AR that gives him. Yeah, like I mentioned, unfortunately, that is not very useful for him, because that would basically... It only applies for turn 1, and he wouldn't even be 1 HP on turn 1, because he has to... Fucking... Sorry about that, I'll leave windows open. Yeah, it would only apply on turn 1, and he won't be 1 HP on turn 1, because he has to count down and then wait until the end of that turn, so it would be the same as just a 2 times damage buff. It would possibly be useful on subsequent phases, but again, like Ara said, you're probably wiping them on the previous phase, which means the next turn would be Shino's off turn. So, summons AR not that great. If you could get him like the Brawn AR or there's an attack up AR, I think, that would work better. Hello, hot edgy daddy is back with his 8 sons, but the real question is, why does he still look like Moritaka? I believe the research profile gives basically an excuse saying that the app recognizes him as Shino.
I think
so
it's like half legitimate. I mean, I know it's an Aspel, but it also sort of makes sense because he's being summoned from the memories of Yatsufusa, right? But because this game's all about memories, but everyone's only seen Shino among Dog Warriors, so I guess he manifests as what they remember Yatsufusa as Shino, so I guess that's why it's like that.
The other 6 haven't even seen him.
They saw him in other loops, I'm pretty sure, but it's fine.
They saw him, yes. I think it makes perfect sense, but not going to talk about it otherwise. I will kill me for spoilers.
I will kill you. Grrr.
Shino has good potential even for survival quests. Art is also fine, but only Shino other is kinda okay. No Habla. I'm afraid I cannot pause that sentence.
Shino is even for us. Shino's good for both elimination and endurance farms. The art's good, but
just means that
Valentine Shino is mid. I don't know.
Or is he talking about Valentine Shino? Because Valentine Shino is...
I don't know who the fuck Shino other is, but okay. Let's just say Valentine Shino.
Mori.
Who calls Mori other Shino? Like, what the fuck?
I don't know. People would call Shino Mori Alta because people play Fate, but never mind. Still Mori over Shino. Shino moving breastily in that art. Yeah, the other Dog Warriors are okay. I like Yasu because in that art because we finally got to see his combat knife, with sword air quotes, because it has a unique design compared to the others. That's all.
Gotcha. All right, so we will finally be talking about the final topic of this banner. Everyone is excited for the latest lore drop ever, featuring the protagonist, who now has an official name change, at least for his variant. First unit of their kind to have a variant who just straight up replaces what they're called. In every other card, they're called whatever the player chooses them to be called by. In my game, he's called Arathun, but this card here will always be called the Future Hero. So, the Future Hero, as I will be calling him from now on, is incredibly strong and simple to play as too. So you don't really need to think too deeply about how to play him as, unlike some of the other divine units in this game. Kurin's kind of too big brain, even though she's extremely effective, having 3 completely separate functions. Shino has a lot of synergy potential, and
like, what's that? I thought Erbie was supposed to be reading this.
Oh, right. Well, I haven't said anything about him yet. Good point. Erbie, speak up. Jeez.
Fine. It's fine. Like, you probably have a lot more Or no, it's
No. I'll just say it after. I actually I had it originally listed as me, and I was like, I kind of changed it on one before I posted the list. I'll give it to Erbie. So that's why I was doing it. My bad. All right, go ahead.
You were Zalskied MC5.
Right. My bad.
Okay, so basically this. Let me just see where my notes start. Okay, yeah, okay, there we go. So yeah, this is basically the protagonist's 5-star, except it doesn't, as Ara said, it doesn't share name with the protagonist that we've chosen the name. He's called Future Hero. This is pretty much what you'd expect from an upgraded protagonist unit, is as almost the exact same function. Almost, I say almost because there's a few things that are a little different, but not so much that it's going to compromise the way you use it. But basically, it starts with its
Hello?
Hello?
You just called me.
Oh, shit.
what?
Hello.
Hi, did we miss anything? Sorry.
Maybe.
Yeah, I pressed some wrong buttons by accident. Can you resume from the beginning? My bad. That was a bit odd.
Are you still streaming? Okay.
Should be still streaming.
Okay. Oh well. Basically, it's what I said before. He's basically an upgraded protagonist. It has most of his previous functions, but with upgraded effects. Its range has been now increased to long slash instead of slash, and he has permanent increased omni movement by 1. And he also starts with an additional +1 omni movement, just for the first turn. So he's going to be able to move just like Shino on the first turn, right next to the unit on the other side of the court. But you probably don't want to do that anyway. You want to put him in the center. So this is a little bit of overkill. I don't even know why we have so much omni movement. Because I don't even know why it's even omni movement, because +2 vertical movement is never going to be useful. I think, at least. I'm never going to see that useful, but okay. So after moving, instead of having a very limited pull on this column, it now pulls the whole board by 1. The protagonist can now also remove enemy buffs at an 80% and debuffs from self at 70% when hitting the enemy and 80% when being hit. These aren't guaranteeable rates, but they're close to it, and they're very generous, and we'll also see why this is actually much better than what it looks later. So when I talk more about the rest of the skit. MC now also applies weakness to all enemies. It hits and has a 2x advantage against it. But that's not all they have to increase their damage, as they also start with when appearing attack up and defense up. And the crit is now guaranteed on movement. Well, guaranteed at the skill seed bait level. Most of this stuff does require at least skill seeds or 10% increase. A lot of the rates are skill seed bait. There's also a tiny 20% chance to trigger crit plus every turn, but since it's still only 20%, it really should never be relied upon. But it's going to make a big difference when it does. I guess this is probably just here for lore reasons, because it's some sort of luck, whatever. But damage is not all MC has. He also has a chance of triggering guts on a coin flip whenever being hit. So this can potentially give him always a form of refreshing guts, but unfortunately it's only 50%, but it's still pretty good. This version of the protagonist also has very high CP gain. The fact that he can pull the whole board is long slash, and also starts every phase start with combo, will increase all of these together, and on top of MC having CP generation for every enemy it hits is going to substantially increase their CP gain. And also, not only that, but the combo will also increase the chance of triggering those remove buff and debuff that he has on hits, making them able to remove a lot of buffs and debuffs from him, a lot of debuffs from themselves. His CS pulls in enemies again. I guess he can, since most of his kit does not, in fact, require movement. Well, even though he does have pretty good movement with his increased movement skill, so he can pull all enemies, remove all buffs from all enemies he hits, and those behind them by 2 squares. So this, effectively, if you hit 5 enemies, is going to remove all buffs from the entire board, and it also restores 20% of their of the protagonist's HP. I know why I say MP, meaning that if they hit 5 enemies, they will be brought to full health regardless. So pretty powerful CS. They also apply crit plus to self on this CS, although you're going to need a few copies to boost this multiplier, even though it's very good at base already. And it also stacks with every other damage amp except the weakness, but it's still going to be a bit better. So pretty much long slash unit, big damage, and it's also going to charge very fast. It's essentially, if you play him correctly, he's going to have his CS every 2 turns, just like Shino. Wow, would have thought. Oh, okay. In terms of damage, he has pretty high damage. He's the highest attack divine unit we have so far. So this has a lot of potential. It has near double everyone else's regular attack, so that's pretty neat. And they also have a lot of attack buffs. So
I just realized
on the first turn,
we're in the wrong voice channel, aren't we? Can we move to the other?
Yeah, we are. We are in the wrong voice chat.
Can we move
Hey,
briefly?
I don't know. I just you were here.
Sorry, I clicked the wrong one. Let's move over there. Okay, I know that seems like it's a complete nothing thing, but it's very important. Everyone sees the dots on the top left of who's speaking. So.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, I don't need registers for this voice channel. Go ahead. Sorry.
In terms of damage values, I'm not going to count the divine advantage yet. I'm just going to say it's double. But basically, beyond on the first turns when he has attack up and all that, he's going to deal around 71k. And if he does lose his attack up and combo, he's only going to deal 27k. But I say only, but it's still pretty good. These are all damage values without the divine advantage.
So just double it for sure.
Advantage. Yeah. So it's going to be double of these values if they have advantage on this, and if MC does crit plus, they're going to deal 427k without the divine attribute advantage, which is pretty nuts, to be honest. But it's not, as I said before, it's not something that can be relied upon. This is by far the best long slash unit in the game, and probably the best we will ever get in the game. So that alone gives it, through my perspective, the honor of getting the divine attribute, at least. Even though it is in fact weaker than Mononobe and Kurin, but it's still very up there.
But yeah,
it's still very up there, and I do like the art, and I think the only the only MC that looks pretty weird is MC5, but it's
because he has no face.
He does have a face, but
You can't see it here.
I think,
He's the icon. There you go.
but yeah, he's in a weird pose and kind of looks smaller than he's supposed to look. So I don't know what's up.
The Takemaru pose. Yeah, I don't know why he's baby-sized.
Oh,
Baby.
he's the right size. Just ignore his feet being extremely tiny next to MC4.
Yeah, but there is another. There are other things to talk about this unit. For instance, since this is a protagonist variant, this unit will probably give event bonus in all events. So this will be very good especially for wide map farming, event farming quests. Especially if you don't roll for those units. So you can pretty much just bring this, and this will carry you through all the wide farm quests, and you don't even need to care about the supports. And there's also a cool advantage to this. Like we've been starting to get farm quests that are survival quests, under quotation marks, but they also let you kill the enemies, and they're also usually neatly lined up together in long slash range. So seeing as the damage potential of this unit is pretty high, and seeing as they're probably going to feature a pretty substantial event bonus, you can potentially tease these survival quests with this unit, provided you give them enough M's for the case. Even though they already have a lot of them, they still lack most of the common ones. I think the only common one they have is like attack up. Like everything else, they're lacking. Everything else, even crit is not that common. So that's going to be pretty neat. They can also equip some pretty good ARs that can give him some of the buffs he's missing. Like he can in fact equip the Kyome AR that bestows Brawn to themselves, and they can also equip the newest AR with Shuichi and Makroik that additionally reduces 10% of the enemy's max HP, which can give them another function. Like if you really don't like direct damage stacking, or if you don't have a way to further boost his damage, the enemies are too difficult to get through, like you can just equip this AR, and since he does have combo, it's going to have a chance to get the 20% off his targets. So that's pretty good, in my opinion. So yeah, this is just an overall pretty good unit. I don't think it's a must-have unit, but it is definitely. If you want long slash farms to be even more trivialized, you can definitely bring this, and all the problems you had before are going to be fixed, especially for event quests. So yeah, that's pretty much my opinion.
That's some competition.
Yeah, I think Hazatoth was more like he's more useful for challenges. Yeah, but this one is a lot more useful for farming.
For killing.
Yes.
Since I interrupted in the beginning very rudely, I'll let Zalgus add on to it first. Sorry, Erbie, again for the multiple interruptions. I really did not mean to do that. I just had my keyboard settings switched, so my mute button ended up macroing to something else completely different, which apparently was like calling the last person I voice called for Zalgus. That was weird. But yeah, go ahead, Zalgus. What do you think about this unit?
I think that's just a weird hotkey. I mean, what is there to say really? It's basically just a powered up MC. I mean, it is nice because we complained in the past, or you've complained in the past about long slash units who don't actually have horizontal movement. So it's nice that MC can actually just immediately position himself where he needs to be, and he has pull.
I do think it's funny that the first two long slash units they gave horizontal extended movement to, they also gave them vertical extended movement. So yeah, both Michael as well as Protagonist just go crazy.
And you have Michael on the Protagonist art too.
Kind
Almost.
of. Yeah.
Close enough. Close enough. It's all Michael, apparently.
But yeah, he pretty much has, or this character has pretty much everything a long slash unit could want. So yeah, it's pretty good. I wouldn't say it's the most interesting kit, like I said. It's not like, you know, got like crazy unique skills or anything. But much like Shino, you know, if it works, it works, and that's fine.
Yeah, it's one of the simpler kits for Divine Ones, as I was hinting at in the beginning. Even on Nobe, for how busted he is still pretty much just like move him every other turn and maybe put someone ahead of him. But Protagonist is even simpler than that. Just move him to the center and kill things. Like, he's so strong that you really don't need to think about team synergy. He can't still synergize just because he's pulling so many units that you might as well bring a bunch of other slash units that can also attack alongside him and take advantage of those pulled units. That'd be overkill, especially with Protagonist, but it is an option. He is incredibly strong when his crit plus does go off. He is actually the one in the game, I believe, charge level notwithstanding, to have the greatest damage per square in the entire game if he happens to get his charge and his crit plus at the same time. But it is not that difficult to get, honestly, since he's getting his charge every other turn. So
I think you should use Onyankopon with him.
Yes, that is an excellent point to bring up. He can board wipe every other turn. You don't need to put Onyankopon ahead of him constantly because, he wants to be in front to kill things. But Onyankopon, you can just ferry him from whatever corner you're keeping it in because, Protagonist has like infinite movement apparently forever, which is super nice, so you can ferry your units wherever they are if you want them to participate in back or directly beside them. But yeah, as Erbie pointed out, he's not really must-have, but he's pretty much just like Michael, except you can use him for event farms too. If you wanted something fight like that, they're like that's similar enough. You can describe it as that. MC might be more effective for some things, like just pulling units in, so it's just a more general, consistent front row lawn mowing. Yeah, I guess that's the term.
Meat grinder.
Meat grinder, yeah, that's it. I'm doing the vegetarian version of it.
I
the
do
meat
like
grinder.
that.
So yeah,
like
he does the meat grinder better for sure. With that said, he's probably like not as effective for other things. Like Michael has that nice remove all debuffs to allies around him, which is useful for the chapter 14 attack blossom farm, which MC doesn't have. He can only remove debuffs from himself. So pick your poison, but otherwise, pure damage wise and just having a lot of enemies actually in front of them to hit wise, Protagonist is better, but they're roughly the same, Michael and Protagonist. So do not feel too bad if you don't get him if you already have Michael. They both feel very good. The only thing you're really
Michael doesn't pull though.
He doesn't, but he has a lot of other things going on, like his skill lock and his what's called extended movement as well. And I don't know, there's like too many similarities not to bring it up. He also does an extreme amount of damage despite his attribute being Valiant, whereas Protagonist is doing a lot of damage because of his attribute too.
Yeah, I do like the fact that I think he's the only one. The Protagonist is the only unit that can effectively get 100% HP heal, and this is also every 2 turns, so that's pretty nice.
I kind of regret having.
So if you have affiliations, this is going to heal a lot.
Yeah. Well, until they start doing percent damage to you, then it won't matter. But
yeah.
When I was doing the Walter quest, and that is the solo Walter quest, or I actually did it without the freeze AR before, and it was like super stally, but MC was able to survive indefinitely because he was like actually one of the few effective heal tanks in the game. based on just healing an absurd amount every single time.
Yeah, the only problem is that it's very susceptible to skill lock and other things. But I think that's its only downside.
MC has a few ways to get around some debuffs, but some he'll still want to watch out for, like movement debuffs will weaken his damage no matter what. He won't be able to move to and he'll have to wait to attack to get rid of them. While skill locking, will just suck ass and completely neuter his damage, since all his damage sources are just those crit ones and his weakness ones, which all require skill effects. Yeah,
And
for
his
one
on
turn.
move.
Yeah. Okay, art-wise, it's so cool. What the fuck? It's the best art in the game in my opinion. For a sprite, that is. It features Yoshitsune from what's it called?
Wano Kuni.
Wano Kuni.
Thank you. Yurino from Olympus, I think.
Yes.
Susano, which is MC3 back there, from Takamagara. Shaitan from Eden, and Cthulhu from Old Ones. I don't know, this is just like the hypest callback ever. Even more hype than Kenshi, in my opinion. Because, it's like, well, a matter of opinion, but this is not something I was ever expecting for them to give, like, unique, individualized art for these characters that have only shown up in a blurb in chapter 9, like, referencing their existence. And it also references their beta designs too, being related to the attributes the protagonists originally had. And they just perfectly fit together with each other like puzzle pieces in such a nice way. And yeah, Bomb really went insane here, making this look like a Final Fantasy front cover graphic, or insert JRPG graphic here. Definitely the best just for art, in my opinion.
Yeah, it looks pretty nice. I like the souls in the back as well. Pretty neat.
Yeah.
I like how MC3 doesn't look like MC3 at all. He's the only one who, I would look at him and say, that doesn't look like him.
It's the sideburns that doesn't, yeah.
And it's just the sideburns.
Yeah. And the front-facing thing does kind of ruin some of the ability to discern what he's like, but it's still cool. Everyone else got a glow up. MC3 got a slight glow down, but it's fine.
Lie, MC3
Well,
got a
no, I still think he looks pretty cool.
But does he look cooler than his base form?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Especially with the tattoos, which are a welcome change.
Speaking of which, someone posted a picture of the MC's art in the beta where they all had colored hair. So MC1 had red hair here, and MC2 had blue. I thought it was funny that in that picture, for some reason, MC3 still had brown hair. I was like, why is his hair still brown?
I think it was still green, but it was a much darker green. It was just very low resolution picture.
It was pretty low resolution, so I guess that was that.
Yeah. The fact that they made MC1 and MC4 actually look cool, that's shocking to me.
He has the same pose as Shino, someone posted. I remember seeing that. Wow.
That explains everything. Okay. You can.
I forgot to mention something, but I think I already mentioned this in the other service, but I do like that the wooden sword is completely broken across the art.
Oh,
That's
right.
nice.
I don't know what it means. It's cool, but it's probably important somehow. I don't know. I do know that they're supposed to be hiding these memories inside his sword, so it's probably related to that. They've broken out or some shit like that. IDK.
It's over. There's no more comments.
All right. Are there no comments? There's a few, aren't there?
Oh, no, I meant there's no. Yes, for us to say.
Oh, okay. You can read out the chat then.
Okay, where did we leave off again? Let's see. Shino boosting Railway. Okay. The other dog warriors are okay. Is this where we stopped? I think so.
Yeah.
Moritaka Shino and Voice 1 share the voice actor. Yasu emoji with hearts.
Oh yeah, speaking of that must have been extremely Kappe Yamaguchi voicing 10 billion people in one ban is like hilarious.
Yeah, I'm glad that he's still capable of doing Shino's voice also, because he hasn't done it for a while.
They're all pretty
he did
distinctly done too.
He did Beowulf, who sounds not distinct from Shino. Well, he sounds slightly distinct from Shino, but it's very close. But I was worried that it would, or Shino would come back and he'd sound wrong.
Well, it sounds just like Shino. And why of all units make the freaking MC a limited? Especially when they made the 4-star completely free. You're walking on thin ice, LifeWonders. See,
that is definitely one thing I saw unanimously in the Discord as well as my YouTube comments. A lot of Sultan hatred for making MC.
It's lore.
Sorry, what?
It's lore.
Lore that everyone makes broke.
It's
spoilers. People will only understand it in 2 years or something.
They still see the banner, but I don't really care that much because I've played other games where MCs are not free. For example, Dragalia, where like the MC got 2 pretty powerful extra forms that are not free. Again, I've played other games that have free MCs, but I don't know. I'm used to it, so whatever.
I know, but it's also like I shouldn't be as salty. Well, I'm not salty at all because I got him easily, but I understand where it's coming from 100% because it's like. This is, 1, the coolest art in the game. It has no right going this hard. Like, what the fuck? Out of nowhere. 2, it was not previewed at all. 3, they decided to make him Divine Unit because why not? And give him a shit ton of, like, the highest damage in the game because why not? Like, Jesus Christ. 4, they're printing it only for, like, 2 weeks at a limited time.
And like, that's the same amount of time Mononobe and Korea.
Okay, but like 5, it's also like completely encapsulated within the month, so it doesn't roll over to the next one. So no one can even like buy the tickets from next month's Unvari shop or get like the next month's monthly tickets. Like people who are actually rolling hard will have to spend the full packs just to get Shino and Protagonist. It's so mean.
It is, but I'm not upset about it being limited, MC at least, but
I just think, like, I don't mind it being limited, but they did it in, like, one of the meanest ways possible, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, maybe if it rolled off to the other month, maybe people would be less upset, although I don't think so, because most people aren't actually up to date with the story because it's not translated. But I think it would hurt less if people could read, especially the episodes that dropped as soon as the banner dropped as well, is what I'm saying.
Oh, I see. I'm still behind on chapter 15. I haven't started. Next week, guys. Trust. But, yeah, this,
May I continue with the comments?
You can, yeah.
I'm so pissed, LifeWonders, but put the future protags as part of the banner. Did 400 stones trying to get protag, only to get junk and Shino instead. Well, I'm pretty sure this is not going to be like a one and done thing. Like, they're probably rerunning this on anniversary whenever they release the rest of the chapter, probably. So there's still time. Like, probably going to have to wait half a year for it, but
that's another thing I wanted to comment on. They didn't reprint Kern and Mononobe for this event. They always do reprint anniversary units when the story comes again, but they didn't for Kern.
They're probably saving it all for anniversary, like
what? They're gonna just reprint all 4 divine units in anniversary? That's so mean.
Maybe even 6 divine units.
That is so hyper cancer. Oh my god.
Yes. Just choose. You can only have one god. Choose.
Yeah, I'm a bit worried because they might have even just like print Kurin and Kyoma next anniversary, but then Protagonist is nowhere to be seen, and they're only going to be like printing next year and same time next year for chapter 16 part 2. Like, shit's gonna take forever.
I don't think that's gonna happen. I think whenever they translate the chapter, it's going to come all at once, at least. which is only for next year probably, but still.
Yeah, like I said. So an entire year, right? Jeez. Like, I don't know why he's like it's not, but then he's like, but so next year. Jeez.
Maybe it may come in Anniversary, who knows? Anniversary does have those reprints of events. Maybe we will get story reprints since we have a lot of banners. I don't know. With a lot of limiteds. Hopefully we do. But we'll see. Me and my brother were lucky. We got us. Congratulations. Yeah? Fate Grand Order Year 1 First Servant Mash Twilight starts as a meager 3-star, subpar skills and NP power. I'm not sure what any of this means. Crap, I sent too early, but continuing Year 10, she upgrades to an SSR, baller skills and super skill. First use of the super changes it to a DPS super for 3 turns, does godly AoE damage, and it's free. We also have very good free units, especially with the recent skill evolutions.
Even if they're not MC, we do have tons of strong free units. It's true.
So
they want more.
I don't understand why people are like, for this so stingy. They never give us units, and meanwhile, all the free units that have been consistently getting some pretty good skill evolutions as well recently, and are pretty good.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Housamo Year 1, MC meager, no comments. That's all of us. Tokyo Afterschool Summoners Year 9, you better haul your ass for their limited 5-star variant. Oh, you're poor? Boo-hoo, you then. Honestly, making a limited 5-star MC unit without any sort of hint or fanfare is pretty ballsy, and kinda just odd. Pretty sure that isn't a common thing in other gachas. Well, I really want to reply to this, but I can't, so I'm bound to not say anything about
like
this.
I said, it happens in other gachas, so, like, I've seen it in Dragalia, I've seen it in Final Fantasy Bravery Exvius, etc. So it does in fact happen.
Yeah, I think DT also mentioned it in the server. Something like that about Dragalia having protagonists that weren't free. I chose MC4, me, voice 1, and my brother, voice 4. Hoping for chapter 17 will give us a new protagonist unit. Yes, I'm delusional. Honestly, it might not be delusional.
What does that even mean, a new protagonist?
Delusional. I mean, they mean another
protagonist.
I mean, actually, that would be really good bait, though. They just release a new new protagonist body types.
It's probably going to happen.
Because there's like 21 worlds, right? They only showed art for like 5 of them, so the bait's right there.
I think they just mean the variants.
I see.
Another protagonist variant, which I think it can happen. Like, we're still in book 2. Book 2 ends with chapter 16, is what I'm guessing.
Erbie's just like, Housamo will live on for 30 more years. There will be 7 books. It's not like we're approaching the end.
Boy, I hope so.
Surely. I mean, there are hints about it not being the end, but who knows? It might be. I'm MC5, yari yari. MC5 got that old one pose, like Azathoth. MC5, the other god, so dreamy. Mcthulhu 5, baby. When I'm super powerful but stuck upside down because I'm too fat. As an aside, it's neat that each MC corresponds to a different element. Learned from Ara's last stream that was the original idea with the MCs. Yes, that is true. Cthulhu getting Mike Wazowski'd by the UI.
I didn't mean to. He's my favorite, but I kind of just made him start. I have like 10 books. I haven't even started working on the video evaluations yet because I only just finished the scripts in this class. It's such a pain. So yeah, me rushing these out and then
the banner
MC getting Wazowski'd is my bad. I mean, if it wasn't him, it would be like shite on there, which that would be unfortunate too, but perhaps not as unfortunate as MC5.
You should have put it in the very bottom left here.
Oh.
Just for this slide.
Well, I guess the relationships aren't necessary.
They do have separate sprites, so you could do that.
Much effort.
MC4, Eden, and Gehenna. I'm pretty sure it's just Eden. Gehenna probably sees MC as something different, even though it's the same being. MC3 is still hot, but MC3 4-star is still best art if we consider only MC3.
Is that the one that shows his ass?
Yes. The wooden sword being broken is probably indicative that this is them at their full potential, if I had to guess. The protagonist being limited. I was going to say it was an excuse to make them busted, but so is the New Year's Snake guy, who was also free, so who knows. 5-star MC should be free for people who pass a main quest reading comprehension exam. Yes.
So true.
Oof. My TLS can't do it. Who people in the background? The other exiles points up.
I wish.
That is all the comments.
I hope BombBomb draws some side art for the other exiles. I mean, surely they're not just like some random schmuck designs, and he actually put some thought to each one in the pack, because they look pretty cool.
I'm pretty sure the writers are the ones, and just tell them to draw this. But so
No.
I mean, you can make them up, but like I don't think he will unless they tell him to.
It'd be nice to be able to see the background by itself too. If they ever provide that, I want to see it. Okay, thank you for covering all the chat, Erbie. We can finally close off the stream. Hey, it's us three again, just like in the fan art. So, thank you for joining us this far in the stream, everyone. What did you two, Erbie and Zalgus, think about this banner, this campaign, and everything around it? Well, maybe not everything before this point, because that's the charge review stuff which we talked about before. But yeah, I guess, what do you think, without giving any spoilers of the story and the banner and etc.?
I thought the banner and story are pretty cool. I think the campaign sucked. That we had to spend 2 or 3 weeks waiting for Chapter 16 banner. Like,
yeah, the pre-roll for this was kind of lame.
Why? It was like, I get it that they didn't want to show the MC, but like we had like what 1 or 2 weeks before we even got the trailer with the hidden arts. Like what the fuck? If you're going to announce Chapter 16, at least drop it close to when you announce it. I don't like these things when they do it like this, but other than that, I think I enjoyed it overall, and I also got all the units pretty easily, so I had a good experience. I know a lot of people probably don't have it. I'm not going to say most because I can't say it, but a lot of people probably did not have as much luck. But I have been saving for a very long time. There's been really nothing for me to pull on for this entire year, actually. So
Onyankopon's really been your target.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you already gave your thoughts on him, but like, what are your personal thoughts on Onyankopon as a gameplay unit? Not like objective thoughts, but more like, does it satisfy you? Is this just like, will you be using it a lot? Things like that.
Like what? What did you say last part?
Will you be using him a lot? Do you have like lots of ideas? Do you think he's fun? Like personally,
I probably will not use him, even though he's pretty unique. Like, I don't think I can use him with any unit I like, at least. So that kind of sucks. But
he can make Gordon all range. Ooh.
He can't fit his debuffs or range, so what's even the point? Who cares?
I'm just saying you can. But doesn't say it was good.
I can do that, in fact, but yeah, I don't see me using him a lot, but hopefully there will be new units where it will be pretty good. I can potentially use him with Summer Oz and something silly like Jersey Devil, but who cares? I don't know.
Oh yeah, that's true. Jersey Devil... Does he have like some sort of flat damage effect on his charge? I guess he could take advantage of that too.
He does, yeah.
Ooh, gaming.
So, gaming, true gaming.
20% to target and 2 allies left and right of the target.
So that has a lot of potential. Percent flat damage. But in if there was content where that would actually require me to use that, but unfortunately there is not. So even so, I'm glad that he is not something like
Inari.
Saturnus or Inari. Yes.
These units overall are quite good, at least, even if they can be good in kind of a niche way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I kind of wish that Onyankopon got a different costume on his 4-star, but all the units only got ripped costume skins, which is definitely not my favorite type, but it's whatever. Hoover is the only one that got a different costume, but
it is kind of funny how the default alt skin for gacha games is just like ripped skin.
Rip clothes all over.
It's the easiest way to add low effort sexual fan service.
Yeah.
And it was like
they had
kind of incredibly low effort for the divine units too. MC just like, oh, have a few scratches in the necks. Oh no, but I can't show too much skin, otherwise people will cancel me again.
Yeah, it's surprising that they did show some of the MC's chests.
Oh yeah, that's true. They kept them. Didn't they already have naked skins and then they removed them?
Yes. And someone even commented on. Someone even commented on Japanese on YouTube about it. And something about saying they're surprised they actually did this.
That's a good point. I kind of just like glanced over it, but I guess the point is they're not actually you. They're some other thing from the future. So it's like
you, the exiles. So who cares? Something like that.
Indeed, MC finally has an official gender. It is a 4/5 guy and 1/5 girl, but only for future heroes.
And all the other ghosts behind them as well.
They're all guys too, I'm sure.
Probably, yeah. I didn't count. One of them looked strangely like Ibaraki for some reason. I don't know why.
Don't ruin my male harem fancy of MC.
It looked like male Ibaraki though.
Oh. Well, I kind of want to see the future art on that. Hopefully there's going to be fan art of that, not just this one sprite, because it's too good to let on its own.
Yeah, same. I hope that happens.
All right, I passed the question. Sorry, what's up?
Oh, okay. I was just going to say that I'm glad the Hakenshi fans finally got their Shino, and now they are just waiting for the rest of the variants, at least, because recently there's been a lot of Shino is getting Yatsufusa unit or something in the past years, and he finally got his variant. It's not named Yatsufusa, but he's finally here, so it's good to see that finally happened, at least
And
after all these years.
About it.
Not really, but because I'm pretty sure they're going to keep talking about it, but it's fine that this big side plot that has been going on in the main story can finally close, because it's been going on for a very long while, and it's even longer than the Muranobe one, so it's finally glad that it's coming to an end as well. Everything is coming to an end. Truly the EOS time.
I mean,
No, I'm joking.
I don't know. So much hype over this, like, Attack on Titan, the final chapter, except it's divided into 3 different parts, and the last part is divided into, like, halves. I'm expecting that, but I don't think that they have the intention to end it. I mean, it'd be too sad at the end, and maybe that's just me coping. It does seem like they have a lot of prepared for end of service at this point, but...
They have also released a lot of new things.
Yeah, it would be a shame to let go of that. It's like new features, and then they just end it right there. Like, okay, what was the point of developing?
Random new Babel damage meter quests out of nowhere.
Yeah, I'm sure this game still has, at least 2 to 3 years of life left. And, as long as we're getting paid more, I'm sure they'll be happy to continue it, because there's still not really a replacement for Housamo. At the very least, if Housamo ends, it's not going to be the series, it's just going to be this one game, and then maybe they'll make a sequel, Housamo, that directly continues the story in a hopefully better engine with, like, better, like, in-game graphical art, if they don't decide to upgrade the current one.
That's just Live a Hero. No, it's not.
No,
But it's not.
no, I don't know there. Livier is not my game, not my gacha. All right, Zalgus, same question to you, or same thoughts. What do you think of the Shino art personally, and the Shino card as thing? Not objectively, but more like, will you be getting any good use out of him? Will you enjoy team building with him? Do you see him using him a lot in future, or is it he's just like a trophy to put up on your sport? What say you?
He may unfortunately end up being that. As to whether I will actually, I would like to try and use him. It'd be nice to be able to get some use out of turn 2 giant nukes, but I feel like I don't really have that many options for a turn 1 big nuke. And the problem is that if Shino's best partner is going to be Yoritomo, that's a lot of team cost already. And if I'm really trying to go for super efficiency with Anvare hiding in the back, then it's going to be hard to fit in another 5-star. I've already been having trouble doing that, so I would need to mess with my entire setup to do that, which is not impossible, but it might be a bit annoying to do so. So that'll suck. I'm hoping I can get some use out of him, because that would just be nice, but if I can't, then oh well. As to whether I like the card, well, like I said, there were less, new unique effects than I was hoping. Pretty much none, really. But at least he can do well as a board wiper every 2 turns. I do like the art. I do wish that it was new costume and all that. I feel the same with Erbie about how these main story scenario variants that are just the same basically, but in a different scenario is kind of lame.
Would you be happier if Shino came back wearing Tadatomo's vest?
No, because Tadatomo's dressed like a nerd. But it is also nice that it's still him, because I was somewhat worried that
original Natsufu's character,
and it would look completely different, which was like that's half the reason I like him. So that would suck. But it didn't happen, and they're just going with the safe route of just giving him the same appearance, so that's fine. I wouldn't have minded if it were a new unit card, though, because that would have given me an excuse to spend more seeds, because I have a surplus. But, oh well. It would have also been an excuse for more variants.
You can spend it on MC.
I'll have to. I already seeded them, but I'll have to consider that. Anyway, yeah, I like the banner well enough. Besides Hoover, who's kind of lame, the rest are pretty good.
Fucking drive-by cheese. Yeah, I mean, Hoover's popular with some people at least. Okay, I'll give my thoughts on the entire thing too. Yeah, this entire thing came to me in a very busy period as well as a sick period. So I'm still fully processing everything, but I still distinctly remember my first reaction to seeing these arts. Those are just a whole next level of art quality. I hope to see more of them. Hopefully not just tied to divine units. Definitely something that can only be built up to this point just because of 8 years of excellent storytelling. Well, some points of excellent storytelling, ignoring the early years of the chapter anyways. But yeah, MC and Shino only mean that much in art because of how much Housamo and LifeWonders, the company, actually cares about developing the game and the story and interacting with the fan base. So if anyone from LifeWonders is listening, thank you so much for putting so much effort into this game and building this world that makes us all excited and also all salty when we don't get our favorite units that you made us care about. These fictional PNGs are ruining people's lives. You should have seen Luther's reaction, another Shino and Hakenji among us.
Was unfortunate.
That was you have broken the man spiritually. He has nothing but a sack of skin and bones because of what you've done with not giving him Shino. So thank you, LifeWonders, for making moments like that possible.
Gotcha moment.
Jesus Christ. For those that don't know, Luther spent over 1,000 stones and didn't even get Shino. Meanwhile, me and my second multi getting Bo, Shino, and MC. Oopsie. Gotcha moment indeed. But yeah, I am still gonna be busy with writing everyone's analyses for the evaluation video, and then I'll finally unlock chapter 15's discussion, or the playthrough of the story rather. It will take a while for me, so it's just a lot on my mind. Hopefully it'll be fully recovered by then. But I'm excited for the story for sure. Somehow, chapter 16 is kind of clouding my mind a bit because the art just seems so hyped. I'm like, what was I excited about chapter 15 again? Oh yeah, Michael, he was hype at some point. So I don't know if it's. I'm not sure if it's gonna. Okay. Sorry, what?
It's pretty good. Chapter 15 was okay too. It had some hype moments as well.
Ooh, good. I look forward to them. I've been looking forward to
also had some questionable moments, but.
I mean, that's understandable. I don't expect to be perfect because this one's full of a lot of blathering here and there that doesn't always make sense. That refer to the original mythology, and then they just wave their hand and leave it at that. But otherwise, I'm hoping for it to at least be quite good, just because of Michael and Matarasu finally getting some sort of a what's called final payoff from that. Definitely excited. I just need to suppress the memory of Kyoma and Kurin and Shino and protagonist releasing to be excited after 15. But yeah, other than that, there's nothing else I'm really looking forward to at this point. I do know there's like a few leaked units coming up. Isn't now a good time to talk about them? It's not like we're gonna have a discussion anytime soon, so. I know of 2 units coming up in the future. I don't know what events are gonna come up, but one of them, Zalgus just told me, I believe for Summer 1, we're getting Otohime, so that's gonna be cool. And at some point, I don't know when, we should also be getting a Makoto variant, so very excited for that personally. I don't know the full lineups, but at least that the sources are spreading around, and there are stuff to look forward to in terms of variants still coming up. It's not just all main quest stuff. Okay. I think I've yammered on enough. I think I'll just, should I bother reading chat? I don't think I should bother reading chat. What do you guys think?
No.
Yeah, okay. Well, thank you for the Super Lin. And, Erbie maybe consulted Lin, he says he owes you $5 or something. We'll have to catch you guys some other time, probably at least a few weeks away from now, whenever Chapter 16's campaign finally finishes and whenever the next event ends. Look forward to the playthrough next week of Chapter 15, and be sure to check out Erbie and Zalgus' videos. Always excellent as per usual, whatever they release. Erbie's Fkari videos can be enlightening when it comes to the direction of Housamo stories, and Zalgus admittedly has not loaded recently, but it's still good. Alright, let's close off the stream now.
Yeah.
On 3, 1, 2, 3. Bye. Bye.